I should trust your memory more than mine, to be fair, because my memory's non-existent. Yours might be a sieve. Mine has no mesh. Like, it's not even filtering anything.
It's just a little hoop.
Yeah, it's just...
It's a bubble wand. I think that's actually a very good analogy. Because sometimes there's a little film there, and you get little bubbles of thought and idea, and they're very pretty.
No,
it's a bit fragile.
Perfect. Because that is literally how I've had to explain them. Like, I can sometimes feel the bubble of the idea, but I don't know what it is until it pops out, is how I've phrased it. So bubble wand is absolutely fucking perfect. Very well done.
Brains are so weird.
Today, I'm talking to Lindsay, who I met technically through Julia, as they were also working on the Fish Queen project at one point. She has been very fun.
This is the Lindsay who you put me in touch with a little bit ago, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
We bonded by both having the name Griffin at first, and then as conversation had shifted, it just sort of turned into mutual interest. So, and we have a whole bunch of inside jokes now about our weird, like, holiday traditions that match, and now we just call them Griffin Miss and, like, other little bygone-style renames of things. Bygones being fictional creatures.
Gotcha. I thought you were referencing Bygone the NPC from one of the games you ran. I was like, that's a really inside baseball reference to make.
No, but he did get that name because he was basically like a self-insert. The first time he dropped in, I was just like, they're not getting it. I need to drop in an exposition machine real quick.
Gotcha. I mean, you've seen me go to the 20-sided tavern. The exposition dump is one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
So, what are you talking with Lindsay about?
Lindsay has a theater background, and Lindsay's application has gone far outside that. They're still involved in, like, theater-ish things, but a lot more of it's being applied to, like, community support and other social systems, and I'm curious to see how that works instead of creativity as work, creativity that boosts work.
Doing a lot of theater things myself, it does make perfect sense that the theater people have some of the least linear paths. And I really agree. I'm always excited to hear, like, other people's experiences, because I've found theater to be a very broadly applicable. I kind of approach it like a base stat block. Like, your background is your base stats, and then that informs how you approach everything else. So I found that having theater as my base stat block is very helpful in a whole bunch of other scenarios and applications. And I'm always excited to hear other theater people's perspective and experience with that too.
I was a little worried at one point that I was talking to too many theater people, but, like, it has not proven to be redundant at all. I'm gonna go try that strawberry drink that you got last time, because that looks amazing. It smelled delicious.
It was so good.
Lindsay, how's it going?
Hello. I'm almost okay. I'm fine. How are you?
I feel like almost okay is the most honest way to answer that question on a regular basis. I more have the like flinch to be like, yeah, no, things are good. That's not true. Why'd I say that? Hold on. Do you want to talk or do you just want to be nice? I can't tell.
Seriously, are you asking or are we doing the social script? Like, and the number of times too that I just reply with a different small talk phrase, and neither of us care, because, you know, someone will be like, oh, good morning, and I'll say, hey, how's it going? Like, we don't actually answer each other's question. No.
No, I'm so bad at small talk. I can't do it. It's not my purview.
Yeah. More of maybe a meandering conversation is your style.
Definitely that, but I've definitely, like, shut down strangers in cafes when they're, like, try to small talk, and I'm like, nah.
Most of the ways that I have made money in one way or another are performing the social role expected of me, right? Like, the barista is also getting compensated enough to perform that social task, right?
I definitely
because
did participate when I was a barista. You're right. Like I took
yeah,
that as a very different angle.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
totally.
theater
Like,
of life.
yes, I know. Yeah, yeah.
But speaking of theater and life, what have you been up to? What have you got going on? What's been turning your gears?
I have been practicing life. That's what I have been trying to do for the past few years, is like, how do I do things that feel worth doing?
Ooh.
Because I have always worked hard on cultivating what worth it means to me. And it's different every single time. Like, yeah, like some of the highest paid work I've ever done is like not worth it in its own way. Some of the lowest paid work I've ever done was not worth it in its own way. But some of the lowest paid work I've ever done was also like the most important work I've ever done. I mean, where am I giving and getting?
How do you keep track of that calculation? Because I know how I do it, but mine, I've never really been able to present it to anyone, sell it to anybody. Whatever math I'm doing doesn't make sense to other people.
Ooh. I mean, I think that's it, is that it's everybody's individual math, right? Like, I worked unpaid for a theater company for like 10 years, and then like,
Oh god.
but now I do still work for that person for, in a way that does pay me cash money, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not a clean trade, but it is more equal. I have been learning how to make those calculations, right? And I've done it a lot by burning out and not knowing how to say no, or what is worth doing.
So I know that you had it like, I don't remember if it was your educational environment or not, but the idea of having to make it on your own being sold to you much earlier than it is to most creatives.
Yeah, I think so.
I love that you kind of spearhead it, but like, how much of that is still feeling like kicking water uphill at every new thing that you're trying to address?
Yeah. Like, am I making it harder on myself by trying to do it my own way? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I'm wondering if your burnout is moving in that direction or doing what it does to most people.
I hope so. I think it is moving in that direction but there, I think this has been maybe a joke, like a zeitgeisty like joke for a while, but of the it's the beginning of the year. I'm done improving. It's the conditions that need to improve.
Yep, I've seen that going around again.
I'm circling around that point, right? Because like I'm a creative person. I'm a theater person, but by so many standards, I don't have a meaningful career in the arts at this time.
Well, because a lot of what you're doing isn't really outward facing. It's more like community based and supporting other creatives.
Yeah, totally. And I find that that's so rewarding. But it is the thing that is hidden or taken for granted, or in a lot of ways, like, yeah. So what I am doing with my time is much more in the background lately, because like I am, I help people. I am sort of like a doer, a maker of things happening, but like I don't have a specific title or
I was about
role.
to call you an executioner, but that's not what that's
Hell
that's
yeah.
not what that word means.
I'll take it.
You are killing it, literally.
I am killing it. And there's so much that art does to help people. And there's so much of my skills from my like arts education and like my arts background that like have translated into other fields, but so far, I haven't found access to the like high paid levels of those fields because, right,
Yeah.
like, you know, for a while I worked with folks with dementia, and one of the selling points, or one of the things that attracted me to the job initially, was that art memory connection of, like, you know, the goal was that these were kind of folks who wanted to continue participating in their community and participating in, you know, like going to arts things, and so they wanted kind of like creative people to be interested in doing that as well.
So,
But
and there's also, as far as I recall from whatever the most recent research I had read on this was, like creative practices and having community access is therapeutic in a helpful and like mitigating way for dementia patients. It gives them more
Absolutely.
emotional anchors to things that sort of help facilitate memory having more paths when the paths start getting eroded.
yeah, and it's one of the things that stays too.
Yes,
is
that.
yeah. Like, I've worked with folks who have like pretty limited language at certain points, but then they can remember, they know the lyrics to a song. Right?
Yeah, that emotional
Yeah.
connection like grounds it in a different way than the like rote memorization would. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, the thing that was most surprising about that, I worked with someone who repeated herself a lot, but she didn't know she was repeating herself, right? So
Right.
the skill of being able to receive and respond to information as if it was the first time I had been hearing it over and over and over again
Yeah.
was my most used skill.
No, that is definitely one of those things where like it's got to be frustrating for them to say something not realizing it's the third time they've said it and have the person respond incongruously. Incongruously? I'm pronouncing that word, but you know what I mean. And, but having the ability to like not do that to them, not make them feel othered or jarred in that moment, it's got to be
Yeah.
huge for being helpful in those environments.
Yeah, because, you know, a lot of people get frustrated, and it's a reasonable response when it's your family member, and
Of
it's
course.
when it's someone that you're, you know, living with day to day. It's so heartbreaking when it's your spouse. You know, I've seen a lot of different family relationships have to play out, and what my role as an outside like worker could be is that getting frustrated with the client is like not a possible reaction for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's just how I approach the day. Is like, if she wants to have the same conversation, that's what we're gonna do. You know, I mean,
That's
yeah, I mean,
oh my
I-
god, we've gone from casual small talk to varsity level small talk. That's
Yeah.
you basically you're now captain of the small talk team.
because that's a lot of it too, is helping keep those connections. You do have to have a little bit of they are gonna walk the same paths, but like that's how they remember. I mean, so, you know, you do say things like, tell me again, where does your son live? Even though, like,
Yeah.
I know where her son lives. Like, or when did you meet your husband? Like those things like
But letting
that.
them go through it over and over is also good for their no, that's a good point.
Yeah, but it also gave me, it made me see how hostile the world is to people who need care.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing, that's the frustration thing, right? Like, minute to minute, someone can know. It's that thing of they'll never remember what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel. It was also so interesting. Like, I love hearing people's life stories, and, you know, getting to meet these people who have such rich life experience, but it was also a complete like capitalist hellscape that like my work was totally undervalued, and then like a corporation was making a bunch of profit, which was squeezing a bunch of profit out of an insurance company, you know, like
Yeah.
the type of exploitation of like, I make a certain amount an hour when I'm sure the insurance company is billing, or whatever, somebody's billing someone for like 4 times what I took home, you know, like,
Right.
but then I'm the one on the front lines actually dealing with it, right? Literally, yeah, people are so ashamed to get care that things like get so much worse than they need to be.
That too, but that is no. When my dad was at the end of his like cancer journey, I don't know how to fucking make this sound euphemistic. No, he was very like horrified of going into any facility for any care. It was just like, nope, I want to be taken care of here in my apartment, and that's it. And then he finally had to go in for respite, and they were like, okay, yeah, we'll watch him for a couple days. He'll be back by like 4 days later. And he was gone within like 48 hours. And it was quickly apparent to me, the whole time he had been by himself, he was like praying the rosary with like one of those TV programs that does it, and like really reflecting on his religion. And he used to be a cook for all the priests at the big rectory in Boston. So like this has been a big part of his life, but he didn't have access to anyone to help him process that. And the second he was at the respite care facility, he had two people there who like, when we went to pick up all the stuff, they're like, yeah, no, we got to talk to him a bit at the end. I said the rosary with him. We prayed together. I'm like, I'm sure that was probably all he needed. And like that sort of humanization that had been delayed for so long out of fear was just immediately the solution to the discomfort and everything.
Yeah. But I mean, it goes back to this thing of like there's such a reasonable fear of the medical system and of institutions and
And like he was definitely picturing that side of things. I don't think he was picturing the fact that he was going to have access to that thing he knew he was missing. He was definitely focused on like those people don't get treated well in those places, and where his brain lived. The people doing the good work tend to get wedged out very quickly, burnt out even quicker.
It sucks. It's hard. Like I'm still majorly recovering from creative burnout for sure. Like, and just life burnout. And, the most important thing has been trying to get my creativity back for me, because like I did try to have a career in the arts in so many ways. I always, I've wanted to be an actor since I was a little kid, right? Like I have been doing plays and theater since I was so little, and I did all these like internships, and I went to theater school for it and did the unpaid internship after college.
Cool.
And it was I've had this kind of experience of like, the closer I try to adhere to the way things are supposed to be, the less successful and more miserable that's been.
This has definitely been the running theme of all these conversations.
And the more that I have, like taken things into my own hands, had more agency, but I don't know, the things that I loved the most still also kind of took me the farthest away from what I would be quote unquote like successful or
No, the things that are the most enjoyable aren't always the things that are monetizable, equitable, marketable.
Yeah, and it's structural too. Like, I mean, I spent however many hours rehearsing and performing, etc., that in a more robust, like, arts economy, I would have also been in the track of earning my union points, etc., but, like, it's not that I haven't done the work, but I've done the work in a different place, I think.
So, what are some of like the weird discouragements that you've hit trying to interact with that more professionally structured theater world?
The economics of it, like that we don't have the money. The money is not where the people are. The money is not where the work is being done. When I came to New York, like 13 years ago, as like I went to college here, so I was a 18 little baby, like just got here, and I went to school in the city, so I went to like kind of a small progressive school, but it was limited in terms of like the theater department. So, but that was the thing, is like if I was I went to school in New York on purpose because I was like, okay, whatever happens at school, that doesn't need to be my whole world. I'm in New York. I can find anything that I want to do, because that's the beauty of this place, is that anything you want to do exists on all these different levels of professionalization or not. Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting, it is a really messy mix of professional and more like community based.
Community's better. I was thinking guerrilla, and I'm like, that's not the right word. But guerrilla exists too.
Which is so cool though. I would love, I mean, we're almost at the nostalgia cycle that we're ready for flash mobs to come back. I want more public art. I want more art in the streets. I want more art site specific, like things that are connected to where they are.
Yeah.
You know? And the barriers though have been, for me, have been economic, because I think I've had ridden the economic wave of like, I graduated pre-COVID and was kind of trying to make my way in the 2016 to 2020 kind of world was different than where we are now. But all of those problems of like, you know, I had the unpaid internship, but I could not afford to be doing the unpaid internship. Like,
yeah,
it took so much. It took the unpaid internship, like, took me away from theater because I needed to make money to pay my rent, to like afford to live here, to afford. I think I got an unlimited Metro card as my like compensation. Thankfully things are better now. But
no, having the internship and then having the internship to try to get you better access, but then not being able to get the better access because the rest of your time is spent trying to survive, kind of defeats the purpose of the internship, for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, it's tough because I am like so pro labor, but I also feel like the professionalization has also been the biggest barrier too. Like, trying to do art as my job has been the biggest barrier to my creativity.
So how have you been connecting to your creativity?
I've been doing a lot of homemaking over the last few years, I think, but because I finally am living in the same place for a long time, this is also like, you know, like for once, I have a space where I can host things and like, you know, I can have people over and we can do things, like we can sing in my living room, like we can, you know, and then I painted my walls, and I've never really considered myself a visual artist, but I'm also allowing myself to get back to those more visual or tactile, like physical types of art too, like making puppets or like painting or sewing, like, because I love the fact that I'm a creative person overall, right? Like, and I think keeping an unprofessionalized part of creativity is where I need to be right now.
So singing in your apartment.
Yes.
And you were recently hosting a in-house one-person show of you performing all of Rent.
Yes. I am fixated on the musical Rent. The musical Rent has been my life trajectory, has been my blueprint, has been a direct force in so many choices that I've made. Like, I would not live in New York if it wasn't for Rent. I also wouldn't be the like queer person who went to the weird liberal arts school rather than go the BFA route without the legacy of Rent, because it was really important to talk about HIV and to talk about people with AIDS and to talk about gay people and to talk about trans people and queer people, and like those were also my you know, queer roots. So I have joked for a long time that I can sing all of Rent, that I can start at the beginning and just go all the way through. And I have been putting myself to the actual test on that. And most recently, I did that in my living room. I'd love to do it again. It was very fun. Because, and it's fun for people who don't even know the show that well, actually, because like it's cool to see someone like know something. And there is the acting of like doing all the different little voices, and could someone who doesn't know the show see a one-woman version or a one-person version of Rent and get it? I don't know. So,
what was the reception like?
Oh, it was a very warm house. It was my dear friends one person who was able to be there, she has been a friend of mine since I was 12.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I have long-term relationships is what I'll say about myself.
I'm very impressed with that. Tomorrow I'm having lunch with a friend of mine, the one friend of mine who knows me from before I was 18.
Ooh. It's a double-edged sword, but I love having people who have known me this long. But so someone who was there, you know, she was introduced to Rent because I sang a song from Rent at a 6th grade talent show.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I if anyone wants to venture a guess of where I did my unpaid internship based on this fixation. I've worked as a maybe kind of dramaturg, like production assistant kind of thing on other one-person shows, and what I think is the fallacy of them is the oneness, right? No one does theater alone. You cannot have a one-woman show. It doesn't exist. So it's a lie.
So how did that manifest in your living room?
Because I needed my friends to be there to have it be a show.
I see. That's fascinating.
I could sit alone in a room and sing to myself the entire score of Rent, which I definitely did a lot as a lonely tween left alone at home, like with my multi-CD disc changer, right? That like, I actually would start, this is psychotic of me, I would start with Act 2 of Rent and listen to it in that order. Listen to like Act 2 and then Act 1.
What?
Because I knew it so well, it didn't like matter. And then also because I liked the songs in Act 2 a little bit better. And my introduction was from a song in Act 2. So, and then, yeah, like the first song that I ever heard from Rent was What You Own. Like someone else in a voice class I was taking was singing it. But then, and that's in Act 2. And then Seasons of Love is also the Act 2 opener. So if anyone does know any song from that show, the 525,600 minutes, that's from Act 2. That doesn't even come in anyway. So no one does theater alone is sort of the point of doing a one-woman Rent.
Well, in that context, if you're trying to bring back flash mobs, I have a pitch.
Yeah.
You set up a public one-woman show to start abruptly someplace and have enough people peppered with like folding chairs that just slowly show up and build an audience around you.
I love this. My fixation on Rent has evolved into the idea that to kind of undermine the great man, like lionization, hero worship of Jonathan Larson is like, yes, wonderful, creative person, made a lot of beautiful things. The thing that I'm most obsessed with in my entire life. Like, he died the night before the first preview of Rent ever happened.
Oh, wow. I've never heard that before.
Really? Oh, okay. So the composer of Rent died unexpectedly of an unknown heart condition the night before the first preview off-Broadway, which, if anyone knows about the preview process, lots of things change, actually, in the preview process between previews and opening, because you have the rehearsal process and then you have previews where you actually get an audience in, and that's when a lot of work actually has to happen again, because the audience informs a lot about what the show needs, you know?
No,
like,
I've never seen this from the theater side, but I have some friends who do stage storytelling or stand-up comedy, and like a lot of times they'll workshop smaller things in smaller crowds and like adjust things based on hearing what response you get, how to change the pacing of a thing, expecting this is where people are going to make a noise, things that you can't get on a dry run by yourself.
Exactly, yeah. So it's also a fascinating piece of work because it's frozen in amber in a way. There were some things that changed, but it's also sort of, there's a preciousness about Rent because we don't have Jonathan Larson with us in this plane anymore to give his input of what else he would change. So we just kind of keep it like it's not a living document anymore.
Right, we're not going to turn it into a Cats movie remake with CGI.
Yeah, yeah, and the Rent movie, yeah, it takes out a lot. You know, I mean, it's the choices of adaptation. You know, adapting between different mediums for sure.
But definitely, it makes more sense that they can subtract what they would not have been comfortable trying to add or stylize in the same way with that preciousness.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, we're not going to get a Rent 2 a la Phantom of the Opera sequel.
No.
I don't want to keep you for too much longer, so I do want to do some unpacking. The idea of failure versus success. You're on a very specific path right now. I think out of everyone I've talked to, you are in the least structured vein of this. So what is your current view of like failure versus success and what you're trying at? Like, where are you pointing your bow?
My goal is to feel respected and valued.
That is such a tough one, because your goal is to get other people to do something different than you've currently been experiencing.
Yeah. So some of it is also my self-work, and so I do, have to take responsibility for the choices that I make. I make the choice to work for free or not. To me, it's so much more about how things are being done. And I'm still, I am starting over at a new plateau kind of phase, right? Like, I don't feel like I'm starting at the bottom, but I definitely feel like I'm in uncharted territory for me.
Fair. Are you kind of approaching... So I guess with uncharted territory, this is the thing. Like, it's a question of, are you trying to build something yourself, trying to find what opportunities do suit you, taking inventory?
Yeah, I think I've definitely come from the position of like do it yourself. So that's kind of my default mode. If I want to do something, I feel like I can make it happen, but I want to be part of something too.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the things that's frustrating about the creative industry, like, is that everybody starts their own company and reinvents the wheel. I am also interested in like leading by example. Like, I have a few ideas of like things I want to do. Like, I love my one woman Rent. I want to keep like working that out. And also, like, to go back to talking about folks with dementia and like, community as art, like art therapy, I'm really interested in and focused on like an intergenerational kind of lifestyle, and because like I hope to get old and I would like for it to be good to be old. I would like for it to be good to be old and disabled. That'd be awesome. So like, I'm part of that is my personal life. Like, my dad is about to move in with me, and he's a singer-songwriter who, did not pursue an arts career. He made other choices that made it possible for me to make my choices, right? And so, I wanna work with my dad and like make stuff, and I can totally run on my own engine, but I also like love helping. So
A lot of what you do does seem like helping, facilitating, like trying to hold a space where other people get to do the things that you have already gotten to tinker with. Which
yeah.
is not the standard practice for a lot of how people approach this anything. Like, I think this is where the glitch is. I want to be careful here, because I know the wording might sound wrong, so allow me the latitude to unpack it. But there's a lot of ego attached in creativity. There is... It's mostly come up in other conversations with, like, the preciousness of an idea, and, like, people who have one good creative idea, they basically kill off the rest of their creativity by protecting that one completely and, like, not exploring other things because they think they have the one thing, but then they're so worried about someone else taking it or beating them to it that it becomes a very toxic relationship. But that's all ego. And this is kind of the thing that happens in a lot of creativity, is like, it's why a lot of creatives, once they hit it big, become known, they end up with scandals later, because the ego rush of having sudden access to being justified in your whims is dangerous fucking ground for somebody who has had their internal worth validated that abruptly.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to hear someone operating from an almost no ego position in a creative realm. Like, a lot of...
I just don't think it's about... I do think so many people are talented. I'm talented, but so many people are talented, right? Like, that's... I don't know. I think that's beautiful about theater. And I wish that we all treated each other a little more like we are all creative people. I think, like, the hierarchy and the, like... I don't know. It's good to have structure, but... Yeah.
I definitely... Actually, when I was talking to someone from the 20-Sided Tavern, that perspective of clout, because when I approached them to sit down and chat, I viewed them as, like, so much further above me that I never expected a response to my message. When they found out, she was very much just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And you and I had that other conversation. You kind of pinned it down to being like, well, yeah, no. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's still a performer who loves what they do and is happy to talk about it. So they don't view themselves as above the other actors. It's just the viewers who sometimes have an association with their name for some reason or another, that the actors already moved on to the next thing and aren't thinking of themselves in that anymore.
Yeah, I think I've been describing my view of the theater ecosystem as very wide but shallow. Like, not in a judgment, shallow, like narcissistic, all those bad things shallow, but just in we're all a lot closer to each other than we think.
Yeah.
I think this is the best thing that I come back to all the time, is that it is all about connections and relationships, and that is what we do, right? Like, for better or for worse, like, the best parts of art are because of community, and the worst parts of art are because of community, like, because of nepotism and because of drama, because of egos, because of feelings. But then also, like my personal situation, right? Like, I cold emailed this company way back in the day, was like, hey, can I just show up? Can I do things? And they were like, yeah, come do things. And then eventually someone who was like, that I was not an exact replica of me, but who I could, like, slot into the performer part of the company, I was able to start performing with the company rather than being on the backstage side. And now I still work with one of those people, like, to this day. I had one class that I will never forget that was called, like, the practical side of performance. It was so similar to this, of just, like, my professor would bring people in and be like, how did you get where you are? They would tell you, for real. I mean, but the thing that no matter what someone said, the theme was, it's about your connections. And that's shallow and that's deep, because the best things I've ever done have been, like, you know this person, you know this, you should know this person. Like,
no, that's honestly, and I'm mostly trying to pick other people's brains for stuff, but this is one of those things that I will put a pin on, is the reason why that works is the same. So I had to go do a pitch event for the watercolor kit that I invented that I'm trying to like bring through manufacturing. And it was in Texas, and it was like right after St. Patrick's Day that I was going like a week or two later. So I was getting drinks with a couple of people on St. Patrick's Day, hanging out with them, knowing I had this event coming. And I didn't have connections. I was going in blind. But the two people I was hanging out with, one of them suddenly went, oh, I really wish I had a cigarette right now. And in my head I went, shit, I'm going to an event in Texas with a bunch of people from Texas. I should bring a pack of cigarettes. And I had a very quick thing in my head of like, here's why I'm doing this. But then they were like, wait, why would you need a pack of cigarettes? And I'm like, well, I'm going to Texas. The odds of people smoking in public is going to be a lot higher. So the odds of one of the investors smoking outside of the location is going to be a lot higher. Okay, well then, like, why not just bum a cigarette off them? No, because now I'm imposing upon them. And they're like, so you're hoping to small talk them? I'm like, no, I'm going to bum the light and then go stand somewhere else. Okay, so what's the goal here? I'm like, I want that interaction outside where I directly said words to them and not been a nuisance. I want them to see me at the hotel bar working with my watercolor kit just casually in public. And then when I'm doing my pitch, that's like 3 things they don't have to learn about me while listening to me talk. And that skips all those steps. And that's all that these connections are really doing. But when you show up offering to help, you kind of also skip a few of those steps. That's why it works in a similar way. But the connections thing should work like that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of favors built in to the industry side of things. But the reason why it does work is because, oh, well, if this person vouched for you, I don't have to vet a certain number of things. So the conversation starts at a different position than if you're coming in off the street for an audition and I know nothing about you. I'm trying to read information about you. I'm trying to process your vibe and your look. I'm trying to run you through some tests that you don't understand and I don't know what I'm looking for. Whereas like an introduction, hey, this person might be good for this, it skips a lot of that bandwidth and allows those conversations to happen more naturally than they would otherwise.
Yeah, but it is invaluable, but it is also invisible in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like,
and it's because of the internet now, it's not valued. Like, people don't spotlight that. They still mention, like, oh, it's who you know, but nobody really explains what that means. It's this ominous concept.
Yeah. Networking burnout.
Yep. You've kind of outlined that you don't really have a targeted route for where you think success lives for you at the moment. But what would failure look like to you, given that you're already sort of trust-falling in this ominous space?
Failure? Ooh, yeah. Failure would look like losing my roots in New York. Would be my failure. Not leaving New York. I actually would like to get out because I've been here for a while. But I mean, like, I have built a life here in some tangible ways that I don't want to lose. That I just like living in a dense city. I've realized that about myself. Like, I just like city living.
No, cities are great, and I love meeting other people who love living in cities, because nothing drives me more crazy than meeting people in a city who are like, yeah, I just really want to move out to like a lake somewhere. I'm like, you can do that
then
now.
Go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why are you here?
Yes. Yeah. I think failure would look like not making anything.
Ooh.
Failure would feel like bitterness.
That's okay. So I've pinged a lot of people on failure and success concepts. You're the first one to come back with an emotional state as a state of failure. That is very self-aware in a good way.
Yeah. I want to feel respected and valued, and so not feeling respected and valued is I feel like I'm not getting what I want. And I think failure would also look like not trying anything new. Being in the exact same place like a year from now would look like failure, because Garfield is my go-to example of this, where the guy had one note and figured out how to hit that for his whole life. Yeah.
I think people like you and I would hate being, that would be a cage, and we'd be like, this is bullshit.
Yeah. Unless you get real weird with it. Like,
right?
You know, boundaries. Also, one of my other favorite, like, kind of creative principles is, like, boundaries make creativity. You know, limitations make creativity. I love that idea.
There's an entire workshop that I ran and, like, a multi-year job that I had as a result of, like, running this workshop and meeting somebody through it. But it was how to brainstorm better by staying inside the box.
Ooh,
and the whole thing was basically like, the second you tell people to think outside the box, they're now policing all their ideas for originality. But if you just give them, start here, and then we took that and spun it out into other, like, okay, if you made that into a movie, what would that look like? And what if you made that into this? And, like, showing brainstorming metrics like that. Because option paralysis is a concept.
Seriously, yeah. So, like, a lot of times in college, end of year project or end of semester project would just be anything, pick anything and make a project about it, right? And so fine, I can do that. I have hyperfixations. I can pick something to be obsessed with for an entire semester, sure. But it meant that I kept writing papers about, like, whatever musical I was obsessed with.
Yep. And it doesn't have to be highly structured. It doesn't have to be a literal box, but, like, at least a maypole is like if I wander off too far, I can, like, feel the tug on the end of the line. Oh, all right, I've taken up plenty of your valuable time. But if other people want to track you down and see what you're up to, where should they go looking?
On Instagram at Liffin About Town, Liffin About Town, or Liffin J Griffin on TikTok too. Is also.
Thank you again for sitting down with me, and good luck keeping the bitter away.
Thank you. I'll try.
So that was a interesting chat for sure. The scope of application of theater skills, acting skills, was definitely outside. It hit more of my Venn diagram of, like, psychological application than I expected it to.
I think that makes a lot of sense. A lot of acting is getting into somebody's head, whether it's a character's or your own.
Yeah. No, there's this thing that I do that all my friends know that this happens, but they still don't seem to catch on when I'm doing it to them. But, like, it is one of my better skills where, like, if I'm friends with two people in a relationship or two people who are very close, and one of them gives me information about the two of them, and I'm told, don't tell this person I told you yet. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but, like, just be discreet until I know. And so I will find out a bunch of stuff, have the genuine response. And then, like, days later, the other person in that duo will then tell me the same things, and I still play it like I've not heard it before, and I've never failed to convince. And applied to working with people with dementia or memory fugue states, where, like, they're in a loop of interactions where sometimes they get knocked out by the person they're talking to reacting with frustration at the loop, and them not understanding why. The ability to have that as a default, that you're not compromising and letting them experience it for the first time every time, as if you were also, is an amazing application of that type of skill set.
I think that makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of, not improv games, but, like, getting notes on a scene, or there's a word that a director used for it at one point, but it's escaping me now. It's just running the same scene back to back with only 1 minute for notes.
Ooh.
So, like, usually it works best with, like, two-person scenes, is you run the scene, you have 1 minute to talk about it with the director, then you run it again with the notes, and then you do that a bunch of times until it's just kind of gotten into your bones and you don't have that much time to, like, be in your head about it.
Right. You're, like, speed programming the muscle memory of the scenario to get out of the mechanics of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it becomes second nature to react as if it's new every time.
That's amazing. That is smart.
I genuinely don't even remember where I first encountered it, but it's something that I did once when I was younger, and I have taken it into other projects I've done as, like, how about we just do this for half an hour and then see where we are on the other side of it.
It's interesting because brainstorming has gotten kind of tangled up in itself because of the corpo influences. Like, most people now, brainstorming techniques are used in boardrooms for like marketing campaigns where there is a lot of policing and a lot of demanding people to think outside the box, which is the dumbest thing to ask anyone to do. It's literally counterintuitive to the concept. But like, that's the type of stuff that brainstorming should be doing, where you're just like spitting out ideas on quick succession and then reflecting after the fact, as opposed to like trying to interrogate each one as they come out. You don't want to dive in too hard too fast while you're still getting comfortable with whatever you're trying to work with.
Yeah. It functions similarly to like in-class debates that I've done in the past, where you have a very short time to confer with your group before you have to go back and give a rebuttal. It's just get everything out onto a sheet of paper, write it down in your really messy handwriting, then hand that sheet to the person who hasn't talked yet, because you get points if everybody in the group talks. Nice. And then they have to ask you what a bunch of words are, and it ends up with your psych professor literally slamming you for having bad handwriting in a completely different class.
Wow.
In front of everybody, and it's the funniest thing that's ever happened to me. So this happened last semester. We were doing an in-class debate. I was the one writing because I write very quickly. The thing about when I write very quickly is my handwriting gets to be very bad. This happened. Everybody laughed. I said, sorry, my handwriting sucks. And then like a month later, I had handed what I thought was pretty clear handwriting to somebody else to read out loud. And they had to ask me what a word was. I apologized. Because at this point it was a bit in my psych class. Archer's handwriting sucks. And the person who was reading it said, English also isn't my first language, so like, I could just not know this word. And my psych professor, she looked at me and said, that's generous. And it was like, I reacted immediately, but it took the rest of the class a couple seconds to realize what she had said.
Oh.
Because like, what? Holy shit! That's my professor!
I've rarely seen professors come directly at students that hard for something so casual.
It was a joke. It was a joke. She loves me. Like, she's a wonderful professor. But it was so funny to be, like, sniped that hard by my psych professor. My classmate was trying to, like, help me out and give me some grace, because I thought that my handwriting had been pretty okay on that sheet of paper. And my professor came in hard. I was still thinking about it hours later.
Genuinely envy the fact that you had actual debate things in school. I never had exposure to them. They were things I saw people in school do on TV, and I always wanted to be a part of it, but none of the schools I went to ever had any sort of thing for it. I did just have an acute memory of getting kicked out of Sunday school because the teacher, who was a nun, was trying to walk us through God's infallibility. And I mooted the point that if God felt apologetic for creating man and felt the need to wipe them away and start over, because the wording was God was looked down on the face of man and was sorry to have made them, then is God wrong for admitting fault, or did God make a mistake? And I was not allowed back. As an 8-year-old, I think, maybe 10, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that is not the only time I've ever been kicked out of a religious gathering for making an obvious observation.
They hate to see an overthinker in religion class.
But yeah, it's interesting seeing how the cross-application of theater skills into other roles, it does still come back to the same thing that makes theater life, or most creative skill sets applicable, is knowing who to talk to, like the connections that you make, the people who know how a skill can be applied abstractly. Because the biggest problem I've been having is in corporate industry stuff, especially with the tech startups that I've worked with. They don't seem to know what to do with my skills if they aren't quantitative. And that makes it very hard for me to convince anyone who's just hiring someone to hire me, but why all the jobs I've gotten have been, I've talked to this person and it turns out they have sway somewhere and I've identified my usefulness and just drag me in.
Yeah. I think it's good to know how to market yourself to be broadly adaptable and fit whatever job description people are hiring for. But the most fulfilling jobs and the jobs that like stick the longest are the ones where you find a connection, a thread you can pull, and then present yourself as, yes, I can do this thing that I was hired for, but I can also do all of these things. And isn't that great? Aren't you so glad you hired me?
Indeed. And sometimes they are, and then sometimes they forget.
And sometimes they cancel on you 2 days in a row and make you really think about instituting a cancellation fee.
Oh, yes. Or they fly you out to another country for a workshop, and then by the time you get back, they've decided to cancel your role because they've had a sudden whim and want you to write emails instead.
What fun.
Yeah. Swings and roundabouts.
What joyful adventures we have in the world of the workforce.
So I think this is one of the big problems that I see in theater, that applying theater skills outside of theater makes more sense, because in theater it seems to be a competition to get in front of the right person. So you're competing with everyone else, and it becomes competitive at a way that's not exactly useful in the same sense. Whereas applying skills outside of things, just the more people you know, the more people know what you can do, the more likely that information is to get somewhere where it knows how to use that.
That seems like a fair assessment. I think it also depends, like, what kind of theater your goal is.
Ooh.
I went on the New York audition scene is fucked rant a while back.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for things outside of that, the atmosphere of competition does get a bit softer and people get more supportive. And I think it also depends on what future you are idealizing when you are first trying to enter the world. Like, I think a lot of the reason mainstream Broadway high-budget theater is so competitive is because a lot of young people very much idealize that life and want the glitz and the glamour and find performing deeply satisfying and want a life where they can be lauded for doing something they find deeply satisfying. And I think there is, unfortunately, a significant lack of transparency, which leads to a general misunderstanding of what that life actually entails.
Yeah.
And so, for people who need the massive applause and the sold-out auditoriums, they enter the heavy competition scene and they go for that with the understanding that they might not get it, but if by some miracle they do, they will have a super shiny life, and that's the thing. And then for other people where the goal is perform for yourself and anybody else seeing it as a bonus, there's more of an understanding of, even if you do get the big Broadway breakout role, your life's not gonna be Cinderella-fied overnight.
Yeah.
Acting is a difficult, strenuous job. And it's delightful and fulfilling, but it is still a job. I do not think that people are wrong for entering the high competition scene with the goal of making it big and being successful and famous. I think that's a fine thing to want. And if you want it hard enough, then you certainly have a shot. But I think it is a markedly different approach based on the kind of life that you are aiming for, or if you are aiming for creative fulfillment with the acceptance that your life won't be as shiny.
What about the inverse concept? Like the behind the scenes stuff. So you have, every production requires so many people involved to make it work. And a lot of them are invisible at every level.
Yes.
So, like, there is no illusion of being famous most of the time if you're, like, a grip. But, like, I don't know, I guess I'm trying to parse, like, this very narrow window of fame as a lure versus the people who are doing all this behind-the-scenes work, who get no recognition and probably just want a little, but that's also out of reach for them. It strikes me as interesting.
That is a really interesting point. I think from my perspective, the main contrast is like the people who moved to New York to make it big as a stage manager are not doing so because they saw 5 different Broadway stage managers get ready for a 2-show day with me on TikTok.
Gotcha.
They're doing so because they're really passionate about stage managing.
No, that's fair. That is, the inherent fulfillment has got to be there at the level already. I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. They're not sitting on the sidewalk outside Pearl Studios at 5 in the morning waiting for a chance to audition to be a stage manager. They send in an application and interview and say, here's my resume, here's what I'm good at, here's why.
Yep, I can see even the steps in the process are vastly different as a result of the change of scope. Or the same change of visibility.
Yeah. And I have plenty of stage manager friends. They're fabulous. They're brilliant at what they do. I cheer whenever I see them on the little, like, crew signpost.
Heck yeah.
But I think part of that's because I'm friends with them, and part of that's because I really try to focus on the less shiny parts of the theater world, because I don't want to get starry-eyed.
Right.
I think if I get starry-eyed about it, I'll give up a lot easier.
Ooh, that's a good point and interesting, but also speaks to your practicality. Most people aren't very good with practicality.
With all that being said, I have to go do my big adult job of working front of house. It's less glitz and glamour of Broadway and more smile and nod, go full NPC mode, but I do still love my job. So,
that is a
I
good
will see you
description
later.
of customer service.
Oh yeah, I don't even have an exclamation point above my head. It just says press A to talk when you get within 2 feet of me.
Which is funny, because what should be happening is there should be a skip button over their head so that you can get through the end of the conversation to the thing you know that's supposed to happen.
I don't know, patrons come up with some wild questions.
Maybe we should do that as a story at some point. We have a retrospective coming up. We'll think about it for that.
Sounds good. Here's an issue where my handwriting screws me over, because most of the time I can read it, and then sometimes I have no clue what that word is.